It is Meatless Monday today, Power Friends, and I've got a few things started on the stove here. And what I'd like to do today is show you some really quick and easy ways to get Meatless Mondays as part of your weekly program if it's not something you've really done before. So today I'm going to lay the groundwork for you on how to start building a repertoire of just easy, go-to, healthy recipes. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I've started on medium heat. I've got some ghee and butter in here, and I'm going to add to that some onions, just one onion, as well as some garlic that's been minced. Add that to the pan, and we're just going to saute this until the onions are translucent. The next step and magic part of this recipe is we're making a Meatless Monday dish with beans and greens. That's how we're starting. And I'd encourage you to add more vegetables to it depending on what your family enjoys eating. So we are sauteing these onions. I've also got off at the side, I've got some brown rice cooking away there so that this can be a really quick dinner using pantry staples, things that you already have in your pantry for some of those days where you're like, ooh, it's 5:30 and you're thinking, what are we gonna have for dinner tonight? That never happens to me, of course not. So we've got the onions and garlic going. I also have, for my greens, I have one head of kale that when I was prepping for the week, I chopped it up and already washed it. I also chopped up an organic head of collard greens as well. So today, for this greens and beans recipe, the greens I'm going to be using are kale and collard greens, but you could use spinach, you could use dandelion roots, rapini, whatever it is that your family enjoys and that you have on hand. And I'm a little bit low on my beans in the pantry. Ideally, I probably would have chosen a navy bean or a white bean, or even chickpeas are great. All I had in my pantry was black beans, and I also had some sprouted lentils. So I'm going to use the sprouted lentils today, but again, use what you have in your pantry. That's why we're building up pantry staples for your healthy kitchen. So we've got that going. I'm going to add to this some mushrooms. I probably have about a cup and a half of mushrooms. If your family doesn't dig mushrooms, then maybe add some diced sweet potatoes or a squash, acorn squash or butternut squash would be great in here as well for the color. I'm also going to add to this some red pepper. This was one red pepper. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. If you're cooking with olive oil, you will have to keep this at minimum, but since I'm using butter and ghee, I can turn it up a bit. So here we go. It's cooking up nicely. As the veggies here soften, I'm going to add the greens, and I'm also going to add a can of organic diced tomatoes. You want to have like at least 4 of these in your pantry at all times, because you never know during the week. You can use this to make a sauce for spaghetti, or over top of some raw zucchini noodles. You can also use this to make pizza sauce. You can use it really in soups. It's really just handy to always have in your kitchen pantry at all times. So for the greens and beans, you need the beans, the greens, and the can of tomato. That'll get you through anything. Onions and garlic, also very nice. So these are cooking up nicely. I'm going to add to this my can of diced tomatoes. You hear that sizzling. I'm also going to add my lentils in now. If you're using canned, just uncan it and rinse off your canned beans and throw an entire can of beans into this. Stir it up. Since I'm using lentils which are dry, I'm probably gonna have to add a little bit more water, vegetable stock, or chicken stock. I've got some bone broth that I made after Christmas holidays with some beautiful turkey broth here. So I'm gonna add a little bit of that, maybe half a cup to start, so that the lentils will be absorbed. And if you were using a sweet potato or squash, you'd also want to add a little bit more water or broth to help those veggies absorb that water. That's looking great. And now is the time where we are going to add in the greens. It's going to look like a ton of greens, but what happens is they are going to have a little shrinkage issue. Shrinkage in this instance is perfectly fine. So let's add the collard greens in there. As well as the kale. We're going to stir this up to coat. And we're going to turn the temperature down just a little bit until these veggies soften. And then we'll add some seasonings. So see for yourself if you need a little more liquid. I'm going to see how I do without too much more liquid. I don't want it being too liquidy here. I'm going to turn down that heat to low. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to leave it, honestly, for a minute or two. It's pretty quick how fast the kale and the greens go down. We'll be back in a sec. Okay, it's been probably 4 minutes, and the greens and beans look great. They're bubbling away here on low. And you know what? The rice isn't even ready yet. That's how quick this dish is. So I would encourage you to give this one a try, customize it, suit it to your own family, serve it over a bed of rice, and you've got a meal that's vegetarian with a complete protein as well. So happy Meatless Monday, and from my kitchen to yours, let's make meals that matter.